from looking good. And I'll be honest with you about that, okay? And it might upset people at home. But the truth is, when you see these girls, maybe I said it a little bit wrong. You feel like there's more femininity in the air.
For sure.
That's what it is.
The feminine energy is beautiful.
The feminine energy, then you have some masculine men around.
Welcome back to the Alpha Male Universe. So thanks for clicking on this video. This episode is gonna be about the chinless lame Princess Azoulay. And if you've been watching this channel, then you're no stranger to his antics. Well, Daddy Wells and Saintaholics have been covering his crash outs, being denied access to Las Vegas once again, and so on. But I was MIA during those storylines. But the chinless lame is back to no good, and now he's going on all these podcasts pretending he's super famous. He recently did one called Jewish Men Must Be Strong. 200 views, really good job to a guy that proclaims he's the most alpha, most famous man on the planet. So we're going to talk all about it. He is, for some reason, giving his opinion on gender norms, women, marriage, all this bullshit he's not qualified to talk about considering his criminal records. You know what? Without further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Welcome back to the Jeremy Awakens podcast. Today, we got a legend in the building all the way from LA. He's in town, Miami. We got Ben Azoulay in the building. And Ben is living proof that your past does not define your future. He's a man that's been to jail 7 different times. He's went from chaos to becoming a multimillionaire at the age of 24. And he's been a beautiful example of turning pain into purpose.
Considering that this podcast only got 200 views, this shit is so corny, man. I mean, this guy's giving him an intro like he's a world champion boxer or whatever. Holy glaze, man. I mean, this shit is embarrassing. This dude is just hyping up the princess over and over. And guess what? We haven't even finished with his introduction.
Pain into purpose. Today, he's become one of the loudest and proudest voices for Judaism, Israel, truth, discipline, healthy masculinity, in a world that seems increasingly confused. He's unapologetic. He's polarizing. You might get triggered by some of the things that we talk about today, but this episode, we dive deep. This conversation is raw. It's unfiltered. And King Azoulay, welcome to the pod, my guy.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Azoulay was hard as a rock when another grown-ass man looked him in the eyes and called him king. I think in that moment, he finally reached the mountaintop. Holy shit, man. That intro was like 1 minute and 30 seconds. That is wild. I don't really understand why this is such a trope in the alpha male universe. We'll find time and time again that each AMU character will always go on some phony baloney podcast. It is a guaranteed thing to occur that if we find an alpha male, he's gonna show up on some lame ass podcast. So let's hear what the princess is gonna say.
My brother, thank you for having me. Amazing to be here. Miami is beautiful. I haven't been here in a few years.
Yeah, bro.
And I don't know if you know, it was my plan to move down here, but I ended up not moving here just because of all of the chaos that goes down here. Everywhere you walk around, you see beautiful women. They're all half naked. There's a lot of distractions. People are telling you, come to the club here, come to the club there. You want to avoid, but at the same time, you don't want to let them down. I try to not to drink, not to smoke. So
it's interesting, right? Because you said Miami is chaotic. What was the word you used?
Yeah, chaotic, completely.
So when I think of California, the place that you left from, the place that I left about 10 years ago, that to me is pure chaos and darkness.
Okay, so the reason why I put lie on the screen earlier was because it's a straight up bullshit ass lie. So he has been to Miami recently. Well, by recently, I would say a couple of months ago, because we made an AMU episode all about it. It was a Clavicular Azoulay collaboration where it got pretty intimate, dare I say. He had his arms around Clav. He was looking him into the eyes rather deeply, sensually. It was a strange episode, truly. So I just find it funny that he can't even recall basic facts. So let's continue on.
Which I'm single now, was walking on the street, even covered up in LA. I have to worry.
Yeah.
But seeing all these girls, which I'm not a big fan of, running around in little spandex and little shorts, booties out. Not a fan of that. I don't think that's good. But what it does show is that people here are not afraid. People here are more open. Nothing bad will happen to her. And you can't do that in LA today.
Yeah.
She might get kidnapped. Something might happen. She's going to get robbed. She might get, you don't know. So it's an issue where here, if I had a girlfriend or a wife, I would feel very comfortable with my conservative woman walking down the street and going to the market.
For sure.
Also, you guys have open carry, which is really nice. I can bring my weapon, open carry. I look like a cop.
I don't really know where I'm going with this video. It's just basically going to be brain rot, AMU brain rot. And the podcast is like 2 hours, so no fucking way am I going to be covering the entire thing. If you want to request a part 2, I may consider it. But I'm also interested in covering perhaps a new AMU character that I'm going to reveal in a couple of days. God willing, I don't get too busy. But okay, Miami. It is safer for women because everyone has their BBLs out. I don't know if this is true or not. I'm not going to try to nitpick this. I just found it a bit curious though that Azoulay wants to LARP as a cop. You heard him. He said, oh man, I could have my CCW. I could be armed in public looking like a cop, and then had some weird laugh. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit strange. So let's go on where they're going to start talking about women from Israel. And honestly, I'll just keep it real. I think that Azoulay is a racist. I think he has like a superiority complex with his culture or whatever.
Yeah, I look like a cop.
Well, also, when you talked about all these beautiful women in Miami, it's interesting to contrast that with the women in Israel. Mm-hmm. Because when I was there for 4 months, bro, one of the many things that I really appreciate about Israel is how absolutely stunning the women are. And it's different than Miami. Like, the women in Israel have this natural beauty and glow to them. They don't need a bunch of makeup. They don't need implants. They don't need injections. Like, they are so beautiful and pure just as they are. And
here they look good from afar, but they're...
All right, well, I can see one counter argument arising in the comment sections below that probably goes along the lines of, well, Azoulay technically didn't say any of that. Well, in my opinion, he's basically just co-signing it all by continuing to just engage in the conversation, agreeing with the points. And for me, it's just another example of the type of racism that I see exhibited by Azoulay. He may not say that like this group of people are lesser than, I mean, maybe he has in the past. I wouldn't be shocked if he said those things word for word. But when I start hearing words like, oh, they're more pure, I'm like, what do you mean by that? You know, and I'm not the type of guy to like clutch my pearls when I'm giving commentary. I just point out bullshit when I see it. And maybe in this case, I am being too reactionary. If you want to correct me or you want to agree with me down below, I would be interested in hearing your argument. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm definitely not tripping in this moment. I mean, when you start using words like pure, what do you mean by that?
From looking good. And I'll be honest with you about that, okay? And it might upset people at home. But the truth is, when you see these girls, maybe I said it a little bit wrong. You feel like there's more femininity in the air.
For sure.
That's what it is.
The feminine energy is beautiful.
The feminine energy, then you have some masculine men around, because not everybody's like, you know, American. You have Middle Easterns, you have Hispanics. You get that masculinity in the air. It looks good. I love seeing a feminine woman with a masculine man. I think it's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
My biggest problem today is seeing all these feminine men with masculine women. That I don't like seeing. And it is something that I do see in Israel.
I think it's a big product too, at least in America, of the whole feminist movement that basically programmed women to believe that they don't need a man, that they need to be hyper independent, like they need to be this boss bitch and just do everything on herself. And the truth is, women were not designed to operate that way. Like, the women are synced up to the moon, right? Like, they go through these wide range of emotions throughout the month as their cycle is syncing, and they're not supposed to do all of the things that men do.
Correct.
And then you look on the other side in Israel, it's like all of these women served in the army when they were 18 to 20.
And they become like men.
Yeah.
So this is why I use the keyword "why" in my thumbnail, because I just feel like these two goobers aren't really qualified to be talking about the things they are in such a definitive manner. I think a lot of this is nuanced, and I'll just, I guess, contribute to the discussion by saying this, is that I was one time talking to a lady, and we were talking about, something along these lines about gender roles and so on. And then she brought up a good point. She said, "Show me a man that will lead me and I will be led, but nowadays there's just a lot of clown men." And honestly, I feel like that's pretty true. I'm of the party that pretty much kind of agrees with the more traditional roles, assuming somebody wants to live like that. I mean, you want to be a boss lady, go be a boss lady. You want to be a traditional lady, go be a traditional lady, right? But basically, like how my dynamic works with my wife and so on, it is definitely a more of a traditional role, but that's something that we've both agreed on, right? I think trying to force anything on everyone is kind of where we go wrong. And sometimes you're gonna be a masculine lady and that's just not my thing, but maybe that's some other dude's thing, right? It's just kind of how it goes when there are billions of people on the planet. There's gonna be different expressions of so on. So I feel like I have a little bit more of a nuanced take to it, but I definitely feel like there's a lot of clown men who expect too much from women. They want them to submit even though they're clowns, they can't provide, they're not real men and so on, right? Like Azoulay wants a woman to submit to him, but he gave up his own wife to continue his alpha male grift. Like, you understand what I'm talking about? Definitely more nuance, definitely would require a lot more time than I'm willing to do for this video. It's probably I feel like this topic could be like legitimately an hour long, but yeah, hopefully you understand that, and let's continue on.
18 to 20.
And they become like men.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult today for people to get married in Israel.
So
the men became more feminine. Look, this is the thing. Masculinity is essential for survival. You'll never hear a man who wants to survive go into his feminine side. But you'll hear a woman that wants to survive to go into her masculine side. You need masculinity to survive. The problem is this. You have women who now want to become independent. Independent means one. When a man works, he works to provide to a family. When a woman works, she works so she doesn't need a man. The bad thing about it, and I'm not saying, it's amazing that how they show that they could literally do almost everything a man can do.
For sure.
They don't want to. They're not going to go build houses, but they could do almost everything a man can do. The problem with that is that they lost the ability to bond, to connect. So now they don't want to have children because a child is a burden.
I feel like this is actually probably the most thought-provoking discussion we've ever really had together on an AMU episode, because gender roles are such a nuanced and complicated thing to talk about, and usually controversial here on YouTube, let's just be frank. But I wanted to say this, right? Is Azoulay suggesting that a woman cannot be feminine if she works a job? Maybe you can answer that question down below. I believe he is definitely suggesting that. And I feel like a woman can work a job and still be feminine at the end of the day. It just really comes down to how a man or a woman views their money-making ability and if they allow themselves to have an ego from it. And so what I mean by that is, like, if you start making money either as a man or a woman and you become an asshole because you're like, I'm the breadwinner, then you're just probably just an insufferable person at the end of the day. It doesn't really have anything to do with gender roles, because you and your partner are supposed to be a team. And while maybe some people say, okay, well, the woman's got to be submissive, okay, she can still have a voice, okay? Like, you are in a team. Like, you are in a team together. So why would you want to just like degrade your partner, or why would you want to be mean to your partner? This doesn't make any sense to me, At least that's how I'm thinking about it from my perspective. Of course, you may share a different perspective, but I think at the end of the day, it just really comes down to, when you start making money, do you become an asshole?
Because a child is a burden, because she doesn't want a man. So now she has to take care of a child on her own. So now she's not going to be able to go to work. or possibly her business is going to go down. But the truth is, when you see a woman that is 40, 45, 50 years old, coming back home to a fucking cat, to a Mercedes, to 3 Gucci bags, or a fucking Louis Vuitton bag, a Rolex watch, and she ain't got nobody waiting for her, she becomes depressed, then she becomes a headache for society even more than she's already been. And that is a horrible cycle. They need to understand women are very easy to manipulate. That's why in the Garden of Eden, when the snake wanted Adam to eat from the apple, he spoke to him through Eve. He was very easy to manipulate the woman. And then once he manipulated the woman, he was able to manipulate the men. Men follow the women because they want sex. Now, what's the problem here? Thanks to Eve, we didn't conceive one child in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, that conversation definitely got derailed at the end. This podcast, I only covered around the first 15 minutes and it's nearly 2 hours long. So if you want me to cover this for a part 2, I may consider it. But yeah, I found it funny that Azoulay is saying, oh man, there's a woman in her 30s or 40s and she's coming back to a bag of a Gucci bag, a Mercedes and a cat. She's a really unhappy lady. I mean, maybe it is true because at the end of the day, like family is true joy, but isn't Azoulay in the same situation technically? Except he goes back to his mom. And that's pretty funny. That's pretty like rich of this guy to like criticize people so easily. But he lives with his mom. All right, so I'm basically just going to leave you with that. If you are new to the Azoulay story, the lore, you probably are scratching your head and being like, what? But I definitely implore you to check out some other videos. So you know what? Thank you for spending your time here. I really appreciate you. Consider smashing that like button on the way out. Swing on by the Discord, and I'll catch you in a future AMU episode. Later, guys.